Good morning, campers! It's Wednesday!
Woo!
Woo!
Yeah.
Alright, campers, let's start out this morning. We're going to do some calisthenics. Let's do some butt clenches. These are going to be real hard, so stay with me, okay? Ready? 1, 2,
It hurts.
3, 4, 5, 6.
How many are we doing?
7, 8, 9. One more. 10. Oh,
Wow.
wow.
My
Fall
glutes
over.
are nice and warm for these songs.
Alright, let's start off
Do
this
it.
morning with Sea of Galilee.
Ah.
There's a Sea of Galilee. There's a Sea of Galilee. There's a sea. There's a sea. There's a Sea of Galilee. There's a boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a boat. There's a boat. There's a boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a man, there's a man, there's a man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are hands in the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are hands in the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are hands, there are hands, there are hands in the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a net in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a net in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a net, there's a net, there's a net in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a fish in the net in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a fish in the net in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a fish, there's a fish, there's a fish in the net in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee.
There's a worm and the fish in the net in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a worm and the fish in the net in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a worm, there's a worm, there's a worm and the fish in the net in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a hook and the worm and the fish in the net in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a hook and the worm and the fish in the net in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a worm, there's a worm, there's a hook and the worm and the fish in the net in the Sea of Galilee. Alright, that's good. What's
Alright.
next, Ryan?
We'll do Jesus' love is a bubbling over.
Alright.
Good call, good call.
Yeah.
Alright, Kara, you got this one?
I got this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Jesus' love is bubbling over. Jesus' love is bubbling over. Jesus' love is bubbling over. Hallelujah. Ooh, love is bubbling over. Ooh, love is bubbling over. Ooh, love is bubbling over. Hallelujah. Ooh, ah, bubbling over. Ooh, ah, bubbling over. Ooh, ah, bubbling over. Hallelujah. Ooh, ah, psh, over. Ooh, ah, psh, over. Ooh, ah, psh, over. Hallelujah. Ooh, ah, psh, wee. Ooh, ah, psh, wee. Ooh, ah, psh, wee. Hallelujah. Jesus' love is bubbling over. Jesus' love is bubbling over. Jesus' love is bubbling over. Hallelujah.
Alright. Next we'll do, a good one. Father Abraham.
Alright, let's do it.
Father Abraham had many sons, and many sons had Father Abraham. I'm one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord. Right on. Father Abraham had many sons, and many sons had Father Abraham. I'm one of them, and so are you. So let's all praise the Lord. Right arm, left arm. Father Abraham had many sons, and many sons had Father Abraham. I'm one of them, and so are you. So let's all praise the Lord. Right arm, left arm, right leg. Father Abraham had many sons, and many sons had Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's all praise the Lord. Right arm, left arm, right leg, left leg. Father Abraham had many sons, and many sons had Father Abraham.
and I am one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord. Right arm, left arm, right leg, head back. Father Abraham had many sons, and many sons had Father Abraham, and I am one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord. Right arm, right leg, head back, tongue out. Father Abraham had many sons, many sons had Father Abraham, and I am one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord. Right arm, right leg, head up, tongue out, turn around. Father Abraham, and many sons have Father Abraham. I'm one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord. Right arm, right leg, head back, tongue out, turn around, head down. All right.
Alright,
We got one more. Are you all right? Whoa.
let's finish this off with the hippo song.
Hippo song.
Oh. Ready?
In the beginning, God made the trees, and the forest filled with trees. He made the mountains up so high, and at the top He placed the sky. God's fingerprints are everywhere, just to show how much He cares. In the middle, He had lots of fun when He made a hippo that weighs a ton. Hip, 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 hippopotamus. Hip, hip, hooray, God made all of us. Hip, 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 hippopotamus. Hip, hip, hooray, God made all of us. Whew. Whew, that's a good one to end on, right?
Oh yeah, let's
That-
Pledge of Allegiance.
All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, campers. See you guys tonight. Enjoy your day.
Bye.
Hello everyone, welcome to Cooking with Kara. Today I'm going to teach you guys how to make communion bread. So, first things first, what do we always do when we're cooking food? Wash our hands. You got that. So, go to your sink, I'm going to go to mine, and wash your hands. Perfect. We always want to wash our hands before we cook because any germs that are on our hands can get washed away and not be in the food that we're cooking. That'd be gross. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start with our first step here. Actually, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. We're going to set our oven here to bake at 375. So click bake and then go up until you get to 375 and then click bake again. And it'll preheat your oven so you don't have to worry about that later. So next is we're going to go to our first step. And our first step is adding 1 cup of flour. So get your flour out and scoop 1 cup. It's really hard to do out of a bag, but that's okay. Make sure it's nice and even on the top. You can scrape it off with the back of your spatula or the back of a butter knife, and then you add that in, just like that. Set those things aside. And then we go to our Crisco. There's that. This is like really sticky. So if you want to try it with a spoon, if your spatula's not working, that's okay too. But you just scoop it in there, and Crisco's tricky. It may seem like it's full, but it's not. So you want to smash it down into the bottom to make sure you're getting the full cup, and keep doing that until it looks like it's full. And then a trick my mom taught me is to go like this on the top. So it's putting out all the air that was left in there. And then smash it down some more. Make sure you have your full 1/3 cup and not just a little bit less. All right, perfect. And then you scoop it in as well. Just like that. Nicely done. Scrape off the excess on the side of the bowl. We'll get to that in a minute. And then set that aside. Let's set that right there. And then a pinch of salt. So what I like to do is put just a little bit of salt in my hand. Probably about that much. Don't put a whole lot because we don't want salty bread. That'd be gross. So we're gonna combine this in our bowl. Just mixing it around, stirring it, making sure all of the flour and Crisco are combined. Sometimes it takes a little bit. It's gonna be crumbly. It's not gonna be like a thick mixture. Ooh, it's gonna be really crumbly. You just don't want a whole bunch of chunks of Crisco. So this may take a few minutes, or if you're really good, could take seconds. But knowing how to make communion bread is really important because it allows you to be able to serve your church. So my church every month has people sign up to make communion bread. And, well, not right now because of the pandemic, but usually we have people sign up to do the communion bread. And so if you have that at your church, you could help your mom or your grandma or your aunt or whoever you're with make communion bread with you, and you could serve the church. Make it every Sunday. And that would be awesome. I remember doing that with my mom, and that was always fun. Or if your mom doesn't like to, or if there's only one person that makes communion bread, maybe try and find out who it is and go and make communion bread with them. Say, hey, at church camp we learned how to make communion bread. Is it okay if I come in and make some communion bread with you? And she'd be like, yeah, I'd love to. Or he, I'm not trying to make assumptions, but I think our mixture is looking pretty good. So it's really crumbly, not a bunch of huge chunks, just trying to make sure we get all of the big chunks of Crisco out of that. Perfect, we'll go with that. All right, and so our next step is to add a fourth cup of water. Okay, I'm gonna steadily walk, there we go. Make sure I'm not spilling anything. Okay, and so you combine this one too. This one should be more like a dough. So if you've ever seen like pie dough, this is actually a pie dough recipe as well, which is really cool. So if you're trying to make pies, you can make that with this as well. So you combine this. And what I like to do when I get to a stage where it's becoming too sticky for my spoon, I wipe it off and I get to have some fun. I just mush it together, making sure all of the flour is being pressed into the dough. Getting it all on the bottom. Just like that. You don't want to overwork your dough though, because if you overwork it, it can make it just turn out bad in the end. So make sure you just get the flour worked in, and then you are set. Okay, so I'm going to set that bowl aside, and now I'm going to place my dough on parchment paper. I don't know if you can see this, but if you can't, that's all right. So this parchment paper keeps you from getting dough all over your counter and things like that, and it's a lot easier to roll out with. So I am using a roller. You can use, I'll set some aside so I can show you later what else you can use. But kind of press it down a little bit and then start rolling. So you're just rolling out in each direction, just like that. This is a little bit sticky. I probably could add a little more flour. If your dough is looking a little sticky, you can add a little more flour to it. I think I'm gonna add some more to it because it seems a little too sticky for me. So I'm gonna take just a pinch, not a whole bunch. You don't want it to dry out. Yep, just a pinch right here. Perfect, and kind of pat it in. And then continue your rolling. Now, when you're doing this, you want it to be pretty thin. If you get it too thick, it won't be as crispy, and it'll kind of look wonky when it comes out. So you want it to be pretty thin. So just keep rolling it. If you need help at this stage, you can ask your mom or your dad or whoever you're with to help you with that, because sometimes rolling out can be really tiring. I know it gets me tired, especially when I'm talking. A little bit more. Okay, so for time's sake, that's where we're gonna leave it. I think that'll be good. You can do even a little thinner if you want, but I'm gonna stick with that. So I'm gonna get some cookie cutters. Now, if you don't have cookie cutters, you can always use a bowl or a cup, or just something in a circular shape. So this one would typically be for church, like big church, not for individual use. So just like any other cookie cutter, you press down, kind of jiggle a little bit, make sure it's not on the sides. And then you have your circle. I'm gonna leave that there, and I'm gonna do some more smaller ones. So right now, during this pandemic, my family has been making really small ones, like that big, and just handing them out to people individually so that we're not touching the same communion. So do the same thing with that. I'll do a couple of them just around. And the good thing about dough is that you can ball this back up and make more. So after I cut these, we'll be able to combine the dough that's remaining and bake that as well and cut it out as well. So just as many as you can fit in. Just keep going. And I'll do those two more. Okay. So now we're going to take these out. Be very careful, peel them away. And then we're gonna put them on a baking pan. Just like that, perfect. And then the little ones. I made a lot of little ones because this could take a little bit. You don't really have to worry about how far spaced they're out. If you've ever made cookies before, cookies expand, but these should not be expanding. If they do expand, that's a little concerning. You might have put a little extra ingredient in there that doesn't need to be in there, but they shouldn't expand. So you don't have to worry about how close they are, but if you want to present them really pretty, you can make them in any shape that you want. It is up to you. I like to put them in rows just to make it look professional. But I am in no means a professional cook or even a professional communion maker. And that's okay. Awesome. Just a few more. I'm gonna peel all these back so it'll make it easier on myself. So when you're doing this, all this extra scraps isn't waste. You don't have to throw it away. Like I said, we can ball that up and use it again. And I'll show you a different way to roll it out, because not everybody has rolling pins, and that is a-okay. Alright, just 2 more. Perfect. Okay, so another way we can do it is you get it into a ball, again like we had before, and then you can just smash it down. Try to get it as thin as possible like we did before. I'm not going to cut anything out of this, but I just wanted to show you that there's some other ways that you can do it without using a roller pin. So I'm going to set that aside and not cut any out of it. Okay, and then if you have a fancy rolling pin like my mom does, it has this poker thing. It's made for this, so this is a very important step. We want to make sure that we are poking the holes in this, and the reason is if you don't, it'll bubble up, and we don't want our communion to bubble up. So you just poke a bunch of little holes in it, just like that. Perfect. You can go slow or you can go fast, whatever you'd like. Perfect. And you want to make as many holes, not as many holes as you can, then you'd be ruining the dough, but just a lot of holes so that there's not bubbles anywhere on your dough. Ooh, coming off. That one is too. And you want to make sure that it goes completely through. So if you're just poking it like that, it's not going to help. So poke it all the way through. You should hear your little poker hit the floor. Okay, so if you don't have one of those pokey things like my mom does, you can use a fork. It's okay. So it's the same thing. You just poke some more holes with your fork. They essentially look the same. It's not really a big deal if you use a poker or a fork. And then with Big Communion, what we usually do, at least in my family, is we make a center line kind of in the bread. Don't put this one all the way through like we do with the holes. Put it only slightly through and then poke more holes. And the reason that we do the line down the center is to make sure that it's easy for the men that are leading to be able to break it apart in a clean line. Okay, so now we have our beautiful baking sheet and your oven should be ready. So I am going to set this in here. Oh, that is hot. And we are going to wait 8 minutes. What to do for 8 minutes? I don't know. Maybe I will go talk to my dad. So see you guys in 8 minutes. So it's been 8 minutes, well, a little bit more. So sometimes it takes a little bit longer for you to cook, but I'll show you what it needs to look like. I did talk to my dad. He told me to tell you guys hi. But I also cleaned up my workspace. So make sure you clean up your workspace and do the dishes, because part of cooking is doing the dishes. Okay, so now we're gonna get out our communion bread. Make sure to wear protection, because you can't just touch a hot pan. Can't do it. Can't do it. Okay, so here I am. And if you need help doing this, please ask your mom, because I do not want you guys to burn yourself. Okay, so this is what it should look like. I'm not going to touch them because, you know, they're hot. And so is the pan. But that's what it looks like. Alright, so that is how you make communion bread. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope it goes well for you guys. If not, keep trying, because sometimes it takes more than once to get it right. Maybe even 3 times, maybe 4. But just keep trying. I love you guys. God loves you. And I hope you have a fantastic day. I'll see ya.